Hey, yo, lesson here, babe. You come at the king, you best not miss.
Hello, my IBMOR brothers, back again for another one. I was listening to the video by my good brother, the pimp god, Warren Lance, formerly known as Warren Bowens, and he had done an extension of the video I did about black matriarchy. And he put out a theory that I had not thought of, even though it was in the video that I actually put up, because I was reading a paper from the Matriarchy Conference back a few years ago when they did the definition of a matriarchy. And they had mentioned that the Western world, or Europeans, Northern Europeans, especially Western Europeans, idea of a matriarchy was mixed up with what the Germans call a gynocracy, or the Greeks used to call it gynocracy, which is a gynocracy, which is ruled by women. Whereas a matriarchy is built on a completely different set of rules than a patriarchy is. A gynocracy is built on the same rules as a patriarchy. The only difference is you put women in the place of the patriarch or the men. Instead of ruled by men, you get ruled by women, which is something feminism wants to do. They don't want a matriarchy, they want a gynocracy. And what Warren Lance was saying, is that if you look at it, if you look at what's going on in this country, the black community, or the black subculture, is not a matriarchy. Well, I have been heretofore calling it a malformed matriarchy, but it's not a matriarchy. It is a gynocracy. And I told him that that was brilliant, because I had never thought about it that way. I had never even considered it. And I told him that I would have to ponder on this, and I've been pondering on it for a few days now. And then something recently, a couple of videos that have come up recently, have actually enhanced what Warren Lance actually said. Just yesterday, Obsidian put up a video talking about Hurt Bay, and there was a phrase he put in there that is a takeoff from Plessy versus Ferguson, the decision, where he said that black men do not have any rights that black women are bound to respect. Because Obsidian was talking about how black men feel about being rejected or being chosen, or how they look, or whatever categories that black men feel that they have a right to have. Black women feel that they don't have to respect anything a black man does, or anything a black man says, or anything, or how he feels, or his station in life. And after looking at it, and looking at these two pieces, I would have to agree. When do black women get the most angry? Or black women and white men get the most angry? When black men do something that the white man or the black woman didn't allow. Even from the beginning of this country, because I looked at something, one of my subs, G1 Grace, I'm going to put the link in the description, when he was talking about the Mohunk conference. Black men were assigned to manual labors and earning money for the family, but educating, reading, writing, doing arithmetic, budgeting, accounting, all those things that white men normally do for the family, that was assigned to who? It was assigned to black women. Even when it came to building and doing crafts and trades, it was never done with words. It was always done with drawings, because teaching a black man to read or count or doing something advanced was dangerous. You put that in the hands of black women. Black men were trained to be beasts of burden, to be the labor class, and black women were trained to be the educated class, the ruling class, if you would like to even speak on it. Any other society, they educate their boys first, to the best of their ability. Even in the white society, they educate the white boys or the white males first, before the white females. That is the exact opposite in the black community and the black society, the black subculture. Girls are educated first. Why? Because girls and women, black women, have to have the position of rulership, which describes exactly a gynocracy, a gynocracy ruled by women. So it's no wonder that this gender war is not black women fighting back. It's black men trying to overthrow their rulers. If you think about it, if you just think about it, the civil rights movement in the 1960s freed who? It freed the black man. It didn't free the black woman. Eisenhower had already done that with a stroke of a pen back in 1952 when he desegregated the federal and state governments, where women were allowed to take federal and state jobs. Even Monahan pointed that out in his report, that the higher level jobs were already taken by majority black females way back when. The higher wage jobs back then are already taken by black women. The few that there were, I'm not saying that there was a lot, but the few that there were. Black men were restricted to what? The same thing that the Mohunk conference was talking about. Trades, the blue collar labor class. And really until recently, until the last, I would say, decade and a half, perhaps, when most of the manual labor jobs and the factory jobs actually were shipped out of the United States. I do believe, I looked at figures that black men still had, as a group, still had 65 to 70% of the labor class and 30% of the white collar jobs, which is the exact opposite for women. So these threads, even though the Mohawk Conference was like 130 years ago, these particular threads still seem to dominate. Even when black women say they're the most educated, those threads that were formed 130, 150 years ago still dominate. You always educate your ruling class first. If you look at something like interracial marriage, interracial relationships between black men and white women, or sometimes even black men and other women, were strictly prohibited by force, sometimes death, with black men, whereas black women were free to have sex with as many white men as she could attract. In fact, I wish I could find it again. There's a record of the first black millionaire. First black millionaire was a woman, and she didn't get her money by doing a trade or having a business. She got her money from entertaining white men. She was a mistress for many different white wealthy men that paid her handsomely. And when the scandal came out and white women found out about it, they tried to take her money. And this was back in the 19th century. So it shows that black women as a sex partner for white men has always been allowed. And I've been in West Africa where the majority of black women never made it to this shore because white sailors partook of the sexual availability of black women back then. So 70%, I would say 80% of black women never made it to the shores of North America because they never made it on the slave ships in the first place. In fact, just as they did here in the United States, the white sailors or the white Europeans built towns and schools for their offspring on the African continent. So the fact that black men have ruled over black women for centuries is wrong, especially when it comes to white men in this sphere. There is and there has been a gynocracy within the black community for a very, very long time, which explains why all the derision and hurt when the black man wants to have a voice, which is why black women always squawk about black men not building, because your slaves, your labor classes are supposed to build for you, or going out and fighting the white man because your peasants or your underlings are supposed to go out and fight for you. Why? Because black men don't have any rights that black women are bound to respect. If you look at the current movement, Black Lives Matter, that supposedly fight for black men. In their mission statement, there is no black men even mentioned. They use black men and black male deaths as fodder to project out their their campaign, project out their talking points, push them into leadership. Now, when a white man guns down one of their underlings, one of their labor class, of course, just like a good master, they go out and they try to protect their slaves. But don't let those slaves say they have rights and they have freedoms to choose or freedoms to decide something. All of a sudden, those same people rise up and get upset. Every other race of women say they support their men, not protect, but support their men. What do black women say? Especially these young black women. We were taught to protect the men that hate us. That's what they say. What does that sound like? That sounds like a slave master. I'm protecting the people that hate me. Why do they hate me? Because I am their master. I always thought that there was a deep hatred between black women and black men for whatever reason, but I'm starting to understand that it's not a hatred. It's not hatred at all. Black women have always thought that black men were beneath them. All my life, I don't think I've ever heard a black woman give their husbands or significant others respect, only pity. I married him because I felt sorry for him, or I married him because he could do something for me. I married him because he could give me something. Never that I respected him or adored him. Because there was something that always bothered me. Now, I love Michelle Obama. Don't get me wrong. I love Michelle Obama. I've always liked and adored Michelle Obama. From the first time I saw her give a speech, I adored Michelle Obama. I've always adored Barack Obama. Now, politics aside, because American politics as the president of the United States is always complicated, and any president is always compromised because you're basically taking over a system. You're not a king. You have a position that you've been elected to, and it's a system. One man cannot change a system. Politics aside, I've always adored Barack Obama. But there's something that has always bothered me about Michelle Obama and Barack Obama's relationship. Even Hillary Clinton admired Bill Clinton. Even Hillary Clinton thought that Bill was superior to her. If you look at all the first ladies, I should say most of the first ladies, I can't speak for all, they all admired their husbands. They looked up to their husbands. But I never got that from Michelle Obama. Here you have, regardless of what we think he is, whether he's black, mulatto, white, whatever. Here is a man who has a black identity that has done something that had never happened in the history of the United States before, or even what most people in the United States ever thought was possible. It was never even a thought that a man, under any circumstances, a black man that presented as black could ever elevate to the throne of the United States. It's never thought possible. Just the sheer fact that he did it. He should have been a man that you would admire. And his significant other that bore him children should have looked at him in the same way, because regardless of what we think about him, there is something special about any man that rises to the ranks of the president of the United States. That's just a fact. And I never got the sense in the whole 8 years that he was president that Michelle Obama ever looked at him that way. In fact, black women, when they look at the Obamas, they look at it that the reason that Barack Obama got to where he got is because Michelle Obama gave him a chance. Because when she met him, he had nothing. And she accepted him, not admired him or saw something in him, but she accepted him. So she was always one up over the president of the United States, which was why Michelle Obama is held in such high praise, even though Barack Obama was already a made man well before Michelle Obama and him ever met. But the mindset that black women have toward their men, even now, even with this upbraiding of we see on YouTube, where black women are allowed to think, feel, and say anything that they like. Any place in social media, any place in the street, any place in politics. They're able to think, feel, and say anything they like, but a black man cannot. Why? Because he's not allowed. Because even today, the United States, if you look at white men gunning down black men in the streets, strangling them in the streets, throwing them over hoods, and black women taking advantage of the situation and doing the same thing to their own men. It shows that even today, America itself does not think that black men have rights that they're bound to respect. Black men are out of work. Black boys drop out of school. Black boys get into all kinds of trouble. And the thing is, black women do the same thing white men do. They point the finger. You don't see black women getting off their ass, making sure that the boys that they have become the men that they need, because they don't think it's important. There's a reason black women don't pick good men, because to them there are no good men. All men are beneath them. It doesn't matter whether you are a prisoner who has all his rights stripped coming out of prison, or you have a PhD. It doesn't matter if you are a waiter or a cook at McDonald's, or you are a multi-million-dollar football player or a basketball player. A basketball player dating an Instagram thought gets the same respect from that thought that a thug does on the street. In fact, the thug gets more respect than the guy that actually worked his tail off for years to get himself in a position to where he can do something that only a few hundred people in the world can actually do. You never see white women or Hispanic women whose men have elevated themselves go on social media and put that man on blast. But a black woman who will get checks from the guy will kill the golden goose because she's upset. That points to not a matriarchy, but a gynocracy. You go to Africa, a great man is held himself in high esteem amongst everybody, all the villagers. The chief is the chief. The women bow when he's in their presence. He's held at very high esteem. There is no chief in Black America. The only man black women bow their heads to are pimps. It's a man that she's sexually attracted to. If she's sexually attracted to the black man, then she may bow her head. Why? Because the black man is no more than a sexual partner to her. She's the queen. She rules. And the only person she gives pause to is her sexual partner, the same way a white man gives pause to black women. Why? Because black women is the white man's sexual partner, which is really why the white women and the black women really don't get along. This is really why Miss Ann and Becky were so hateful to each other, is because they wanted what the other had. White women wanted the sexual access or the sexual dominance that the black women had, and black women wanted the resources that the white women have. And that's played out over the centuries. But the reverse is never true for black men and white women, because white women are owned by the white man, and black men are owned by the black woman. That's why they get upset when there's a pairing of white women, and black men, because the men and women that belong to the respective parties get upset. Black man get on a plane to go to Brazil, says he's going to get different women. Who gets upset? Is it other black men? No, it's black women. We own you. You have no right to leave us. You have no right to go be happy. You have no right to find women that will make you happy. The only rights you have is what we give you. You have to take the women that are assigned to you. You have no right to have standards. You have to take us at 350 pounds. You got to take us at 95 pounds in whatever shade or color that we come in, because you only have the rights that we give you. And we get angry if you venture or veer outside of those boundaries that we have set for you. You got to remember, black men don't set boundaries in their community. Black women set the boundaries in their community. They set the social norms. It's not black men that are bringing lesbianism, homosexuality, transgenderism. When you look at transgenderism, it's not a conversation that black men are having about transgenders. It's a conversation that black women are having about transgender. They're trying to convince black men to accept, call it what so-called transgendered women as women. Have you ever even heard black men being in the conversation? They're having a conversation between themselves, and black men are supposed to accept it. I'm trying to remember the lady's name there when they were talking about, I think they were talking about feminism. I'm trying to, I don't recall her name off the top of my head, but they were asked about the roles of men coming out of slavery and the black family. And at the end of that particular speech, or that end of that particular section, she was talking about redefining masculinity for black men, that women had to redefine masculinity for men. Black men cannot define masculinity for themselves. That women had to get together and define what's masculine and what's not masculine, what's a real man and what's not a real man. Black men have no conversation in that. Even in 1970, and the sisters were wonderful because they did support black men. But even amongst them, as supportive and loving to black men and the black family as they were, what did they say? They said they had to rebuild the black man, not the black man rebuild himself. It was their responsibility to do what they needed to do to bring black men back up to standard. Black men were never in that conversation. Even today, when it comes to black boys and black men, it is a conversation between white men and black women. Why? Because those are the owners. When it comes to players' contracts in sports, now players have a representative, but it's the owners that come together and decide. They decide the rules. Who's going to play, who's not going to play, what kind of team they're going to have, what kind of teams they're going to have, what kind of rules that those players play by are determined by the owners, not by the players. Black men are simply players, just like they are in sports. The owners are white men and black women. That's why in the United States, the black community is not a matriarchy. It's a gynocracy. But that's my ramble on the gynocracy in the black community. I suspect that there's going to be a kerfuffle about this particular ramble. And this quote is for you, Warren Lance. I know you'll get a tickle out of this one. In the book named Pimp, right in the first chapter, when he's talking about the whores in the backseat laughing as the pimp was driving, the pimp said that when the whores are laughing, the pimp smiles because the whores are still asleep. In other words, they had no self-determination. The reason that black women deny a matriarchy or even a gynocracy, which for them would be worse, is because they don't want black men to wake up. As long as black men think there's a patriarchy in the black community, they're still asleep. And that makes black women smile. With that, I'm going to sign off. That's all I got for now. This is BGS out.